What is this monstrous creature that attacks Kratos in the God of War Ragnarok trailer? Where can we find it when God of War Ragnarok releases? And probably the biggest secret about this creature, what is it protecting? In this video, I'm going to answer every single one of these questions, so stay tuned to the end to find out all the answers. So during the PlayStation Showcase in September of 2021, you can say I was overly excited to see the God of War Ragnarok trailer. And when it finally hit my screen, I was completely blown away. There were so many questions running through my head, especially when I saw this creature. And I held on to this question for the longest time until I finally discovered what this creature is. Later on, we find out that this creature is actually called the Dreki. But to be honest, this raised even more questions like, what the hell's a Dreki? This is what I found out. So the Dreki is actually not a singular creature in Norse mythology, but a type of creature. And we have all heard about this type of creature before. The Dreki is a race of creatures called dragons. But Shane, this looks nothing like a dragon. Yes, this is not the typical type of dragon that we are all used to. But what if I tell you that in Norse mythology that dragons are not the fire-breathing winged creature that we're all used to? In Old Norse, Dreki is borrowed from the Proto-Germanic word Draco, and also the Lower Germanic word Drake, which literally translates to dragon. But dragons in Old Norse look more like serpents instead of this. And it can be a synonym to the Old Norse word ormur, which means long serpent. That is also kind of snake-like, kind of like we see with Jormungandr, or the mythological creature, the lindworm. So I believe the Dreki is like a lindworm from Norse mythology, but I do not think it is the exact lindworm that Corey Barlog in this clip explains. But I do believe it is a type of cryptid monster that is very similar to a lindworm.
There was one part in the game that never made it in and got cut early on, but there's this thing called a lindworm, right, in Norse myth, and it kind of travels from realm to realm, sort of devouring some of these souls, right, or a fraction or a part of the soul, because the Norse soul is broken up into like 6 pieces, and then would travel to the lake and kind of deposit these souls in there, and then it would go into the light, coming back out, and then sort of go back into somebody else who was born. So it's this fantastic sort of cycle.
So once again, I do not believe the Dreki and the lindworm are the same exact creature, but something very similar to each other. And I know exactly what cryptid monster it is supposed to represent. There is a type of cryptid monster that has been reported to be seen near a lake in Iceland called Largaflot, in a town called Egilsstaðir. And I'm sorry for all my Scandinavian and Icelandic friends for my awful pronunciations, but I am really trying. This creature is called the Largaflot Sommer, or the Largaflot worm. This creature is described to live inside of the lake, which is glacier fed, so it's very cold and murky, but also can be seen outside of the lake, kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. Approximately 40 feet long, serpent-like, dark colored, and has many humps across its back. So let's compare this monster to the Dreki that we find in the God of War Ragnarok trailer. So the Dreki seen here has a lot of things in common with the Largaflot worm, and also has many capabilities to be a water-dwelling monster as well. First off, the Dreki is a pretty big monster, at least compared to Kratos that we see in the trailer. And wouldn't you say it's about maybe 40 feet long? On its back and also down its tail, you can see a variety of spines, which can also be a play off of the many humps that the Largaflot worm has. Another couple of very important features that the Dreki has to be a water-dwelling monster is its tail and its hands. Its tail is very fin-like, kind of like a fin of a fish to actually propel it through the water. And its hands are also webbed, which would help it move through water as well. Obviously, the descriptions between the Largaflot worm and the Dreki are not exactly the same, but this also could be Sony Santa Monica Studios taking liberties with the character like they've done with pretty much every character in the God of War series. And have you taken a look where we find the Dreki in the God of War Ragnarok trailer? There is a lot of water surrounding this area, so this very well could be a lake or another big body of water that we come across in God of War Ragnarok. But where could this body of water be in the Norse realm? Here's what I think. Many people have theorized that the Dreki is actually in Jotunheim or Vanaheim due to the foliage that we haven't seen in the God of War series so far, but I don't think this is the case at all. We actually see glimpses of Vanaheim in the window when we visit Freya. Obviously, Freya is from Vanaheim, and she uses the window to see glimpses of her home realm. And when you compare to where we find the Dreki and Freya's homeworld of Vanaheim, they don't look very much alike. We see very exotic, colorful plants in Vanaheim, but in the Dreki's homeworld, there aren't very many plants that look like this. Also, at the end of the God of War Ragnarok trailer, we see Angrboda, which we can safely assume she is in Jotunheim, her native realm, where she is safe from Thor's wrath. Also in the character art picture, in the background, we see the peak of Jotunheim, so we can safely assume Angrboda is in Jotunheim at this point in the trailer. But again, the surrounding foliage does not look like where we find the Dreki in the God of War Ragnarok trailer. So, where the hell is the Dreki? I believe the Dreki is in Svartalfheim, the realm of the dwarves. During the God of War Ragnarok trailer, we do see glimpses of Svartalfheim, and we see many different creatures along the way, such as many dwarves and future enemies that we're going to fight, such as the little frog people. And later on in the trailer, we see this image. Now look at the surrounding area. This looks much more comparable to where we see the Dreki. And also look in this image what monsters we are fighting. These are the frog people that we see earlier in the trailer fighting off that we haven't seen in the God of War series yet. So we can assume that the frog people are native to Svartalfheim. And since the surrounding areas of the Dreki and the frog people look exactly like Svartalfheim, so the Dreki is in Svartalfheim. And a common belief, especially in Norse mythology, is that dragons guard something very precious, typically treasure, but I think this Dreki is guarding something much more valuable. So what is this Dreki guarding in Svartalfheim? I think this Dreki is guarding the entrance to where Tyr is being held. So like said before, dragons typically guard something very valuable, and what would be more valuable to Kratos and Atreus than the Norse god of war Tyr? The god that wants peace throughout the realms and work with each race around each and every realm that Odin does not want to happen. Also, many God of War YouTubers and theorists, including myself, think that Tyr is being held in Svartalfheim, typically because of Odin's long history with the dwarves, such as the creation of Mjolnir by Brock and Sindri. So I believe Odin is hiding Tyr around this body of water that the Dreki inhabits to hide Tyr and make sure no one finds him. So, what do you think about this theory? Do you think I'm close, or do you think that I am way off? Tell me in the comments down below, and let's discuss it.